What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and today I am back talking about Beetroopers. In my opinion, this is one of the most fun decks to play in the entire game right now. Since my last upload with Beetroopers, it seems like a lot of people, not because of that upload, but just in general, have been giving this deck a chance. A lot of big name players even, which is really cool to see. Beetroopers are a lot better than people initially thought they were, and it's been really cool to see people try new tech cards out, new ratios out, and just experience the deck for the first time. I really do think this is one of the coolest decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment, and I can't wait until they get more support in Burst of Destiny. Admittedly, right now they're kind of in a weird spot. They did just get Crossout Designator, which does make a huge difference for this deck, because now you have a way to not lose to Nibiru, but also we have to kind of wait around until Burst of Destiny releases to get those new support cards. So this will probably be my final Beetrooper deck before Burst of Destiny releases. This is the version that I have the most amount of fun playing. My build is a bit different compared to a lot of the standard builds running around right now. For example, I do like Pax build a lot, but mine is not exactly the same. If you guys end up buying any Beetrooper cards, make sure to use my link to tcgplayer.com in the description below. That does help out the channel quite a bit. Of course, we have 3 copies of Scout Buggy, that's your main starter card, 3 copies of Scale Bomber as well, great extender, 2 copies of Sting Lancer. I think 2 is the right number here. I have gone back and forth a lot. 3 seems like too many, 1 seems like not enough, so I think 2 is the exact number here, because you summon 1 during your normal combo, but then you want to add 1 to your hand as well, so 2 seems to be the exact number, I think, in my opinion. We also have, of course, the Battle Wasp engine. We have 3 copies of Sting the Poison, 3 copies of Pin the Bullseye, and 1 copy of the Debris Dragon card. I don't know how many of these cards will play after Burst of Destiny releases. I think Sting the Poison is obviously always going to be a great starter card, but maybe if they give us like more extenders or better starter cards, this engine won't be as popular going forward, but for now it's pretty good. We also play 2 copies of Galaxy Worm. I do not own the 3rd copy of this card, otherwise I would probably play 3. This card is great. It is basically just a slightly worse Scout Buggy, but in most cases it's pretty much exactly the same. Then we have 3 copies of Resonance Insect. Yeah, the supers haven't released yet, but this card is insane. Obviously, I think everyone knows that. 1 copy of Goki Pole. I think this card is fine at 1. I see more people playing 2. I've even seen a few people playing 3, but I think at 1 copy it's pretty good. You can recycle it. It's not that hard to put it back in the deck and then send it again. Then we have 1 copy of the Worm Warrior and 1 copy of Doomdozer. So I know not everyone plays Worm Warrior anymore, but I still think it's pretty good, just as an option to search off of the Goki Pole if you really need that extender right now. Doomdozer is obviously still insane though, but only 1 copy because it is very searchable. I also play 1 copy of Killer Needle, so a lot of people play the level 4 Earth 2000 attack insect, and while that one is better to draw, Killer Needle gives you more opportunities to blow stuff up with Goki Pole. Yeah, it might not sound that relevant, but Goki Pole destroys a monster that has more attack than what you special summon, so by playing a lower attack level 4 monster, you can actually destroy more things. It might not come up that often, but I think it is worth considering. Also, the reason we're playing Killer Needle over the other 2 1200 attack level 4 normal monsters is that Killer Needle is a wind monster, so it could theoretically pop the barrier statue, which is pretty cool. But yes, I like that a lot. You could play the level 4 2000 attack one though as well. Then we play 1 copy of Nibiru, 1 copy of Ash, 1 copy of Valor, and 1 copy of Impermanence as well. So these are all for Crossout Designator. That was one thing I didn't like about Pax's list. I liked it a lot, but I really don't understand why he wasn't playing Crossout Designator. I know he doesn't like that card that much, but in this deck you auto lose to Nibiru. Like, there's no way to play around it at all. I think Crossout is very good in decks that historically have lost to Nibiru, so I like it a lot in this deck. But yeah, I don't know if you have to play Valor. It seems like this card isn't that popular. popular, but Nibiru and Ashen Impermanence are all great targets for the Crossout Designator. You could also obviously play other hand traps if other hand traps become more popular, but at the moment I think these 4 are the most common. Next up, and please don't click off the video, we have the Dragoon engine. So why do I say please don't click off the video? This engine is not very popular anymore. It seems like people are not playing it in Beetroopers. It is absolutely not necessary. This deck list is actually 42 cards, so if you don't want to play these, you could very easily cut them and then add like the 3rd Galaxy Worm, or you could add a Kaiju, which I'm not playing anymore. It's very easy to not play these cards. Personally though, especially at local tournaments, Dragoon is so strong. It's so good against like random rogue decks, so I do like this engine a lot. It's also pretty good when you get like hand trapped, and some of the hands you'll only draw like 2 monsters, and Dragoon is like a cool card to summon when you only have 2 monsters instead of your full combo. I'm also pretty sure that when Burst of Destiny releases that I'm not going to want to play this engine anymore, but for right now I think it can help close out games and give you some wins that otherwise wouldn't have been wins. For the spell lineup, we have 3 copies of Crossout Designator, 2 copies of Tactics, and 1 copy of Called by the Grave. We do not want to get hand trapped with this deck. This deck can actually play through a number of hand traps pretty well. It's just Nibiru that really crushes it, so I think Crossout is very good for that reason. With Tactics, you can do a lot with it. Stealing monsters is great, drawing cards is good, you have a lot of extenders to draw into, but also you can just like get rid of a card in your opponent's hand if you want to. It can be pretty good if your opponent like hand traps your main combo and then you Tactics to take out a card, and then you make an Anaconda to make Dragoon. Even if you didn't really combo off at that point, your opponent isn't going to have a lot of cards to deal with the Dragoon, and you have full knowledge of their hand besides what they draw for their very first turn. So I think that Tactics is a very good card, and obviously Called by the Grave has always been good, but yeah, I think Crossout in particular is pretty necessary for this deck. This deck hard loses to Nibiru no matter what you do. There are some like kind of weird tech options you could consider playing to out the Nibiru. I was playing Terror Top for a little bit to make Bamboozling Gossip Shadow on turn 1, but Crossout is just so strong because it's not only good against Nibiru, it's also good against other hand traps. I think Crossout is just absolutely insane in this deck. If you can get this card and you want to play Beetroopers, I think it's going to help you out quite a bit. Obviously, it is very expensive. This deck just in general is probably too expensive for what it is, but I think it is a lot of fun, and if you can afford Crossout, it is going to help you out quite a bit. Next up, we have 3 copies of Ready Fusion. Yeah, this engine is very expensive. The Ready Fusions have gone up in price since I did my last deck profile, but also the Fusion Monster did not get reprinted in OTS 17 for some reason. So if you want to play this engine, you'll have to spend quite a bit of money. You don't have to play this engine though. It's not completely necessary. It is quite good when you open Ready Fusion, especially when you can make cross cheap before using it, but it's not necessary to play the deck. There are plenty of budget alternatives to most of the cards in today's deck profile, so try to keep that in mind. You could just play like Primitive Butterfly that does almost the same thing in many situations. We also play 1 copy each of Formation and Fly and Sting. Yeah, these cards are great, but they are very searchable, so you only need 1 copy of each of them. And then finally, like I mentioned earlier, we do play the 1 copy of Infinite Impermanence. So this deck is pretty customizable. You don't have to play the Dragoon engine, you don't have to play the Ready Fusion, you don't have to play the Tactics. There are a lot of cards in here that you don't need to play if you are trying to build a more budget-friendly Beetrooper deck, but this is the version that I'm having the most amount of fun playing, even if it costs a little bit more than the regular standard version does. And then moving on to the extra deck here, we have 2 copies of Armor Horn. I think I mentioned in my last deck profile that I never found myself summoning the 3rd copy of this. I really don't think it comes up that much, especially in the current format, so I think 2 is fine. I really have not missed the 3rd ever. 2 copies of Atlas, which is your main boss monster. It has like the same protection as Dragoon. 2 copies of the Insectorling 2, fantastic card. 1 of the Papillon, 1 Almirage. This card is absolutely necessary. I really think it does come up quite a bit when you only draw like Resonance Insect as your 1 normal summon, so I like Almirage quite a bit. 1 copy of Phoenix because this deck lacks removal. Please give us removal in Burst of Destiny, Konami. That would really help out this deck quite a bit. 1 copy of Cross Sheep. Yeah, if you open the Ready Fusion and you can make Cross Sheep before you use the Ready Fusion, this deck is like insane. It gives you so many pluses. It's really good. 1 copy of Axis Code Talker that I borrowed from my friend Austin. Once again here, you don't have to own Access Code Talker to play the deck. Obviously, I think in my last profile, I didn't play this card because I still don't own Access Code Talker, but if you do own this card, it is quite good because this deck does lack removal, like I said. Then, of course, we have Anaconda plus our Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. You don't have to play these cards. I know I keep saying that, but I think this engine is hilarious in this deck. I think it does come up quite a bit. Your deck is less consistent when you play this engine, but I think it's good enough to include if you're playing at like locals and stuff. Dragoon is so strong against like random decks at locals, so I think it's pretty good in that situation, but maybe if I was playing this deck in a bigger tournament, I wouldn't play these cards just because I'd value consistency over power in that situation. And then of course we have our Quaggar Hercules. Why is this card not reprinted yet? I have no idea. I was really hoping this card would be in OTS 17. I want more people to have access to the Ready Fusion combo in this deck. It is so good with Cross Cheap. It's great as an extender, so I really think that Ready Fusion is good in this deck, but yeah, a lot of people don't own this card. I don't blame you. It's really expensive, probably way too expensive for what it is, which is kind of the theme with this deck. But if you own this card though, I mean, it's very good in Beetroopers, so you obviously should play it. Seriously though, if you don't own this card, I think that it's not necessary to play the deck. Don't let this one random old fusion monster be what's preventing you from playing one of the coolest decks in the game right now. And then finally, we have number 3, Cicada King. This card is pretty good. It's not like overpowered, but it does come up and it can make your end board a little bit better. Sometimes you are able to summon the Scout Buggy off of the Atlas instead of going for a Sting Lancer if you already had a Sting Lancer or if you already had the spell or trap that you wanted to search. And in those cases, it's just an extra negate, which is obviously pretty good. Anyway though, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Beetroopers are really cool, and with Crossout Designator, they are a lot better. No longer do you have to worry about Nibiru. I mean, yeah, sometimes your opponent draws the Nibiru and you don't have Crossout. That's always going to happen, but now at least we do have a card where if we draw it, we don't have to get Nibiru'd, which is obviously very good. I am looking forward to Burst of Destiny. I cannot wait to see what new support comes out for Beetroopers, but for now, I think this is pretty much where I'm going to leave it at. This is a build I've been playing for quite a while. I think it's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys like it too. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I'll see you later. Goodbye.